All right, you guys, we are in for a treat. Once again, we have Steve Judd and Rick Levine together in person. And thankfully, they wanted to hang. Oh my God. Are you
Huh?
serious?
What did you do with Steve?
Oh my God. Oh my God. They told me that we are in for a
Morning.
treat. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more surprises. That was awesome, Steve. Thank you. I mean, the coolest thing is, you guys, they want to hang out with you. So they're together. They contacted me, said, we're going to be together in London and we want to hang out with the Astrology Hub community. So we are so lucky. We are so blessed to have you both here. And we're going to be, both of you have been doing a lot of content on 2026. I've tuned into both of you separately. Rick, we've had conversations at Astrology Hub. And we all know at this point that we're in for a huge year. I mean, Steve, you recently said that this is the most concentrated period of change in human history, and that we're in the middle of it right now. We're like at the peak of it right now. So let's just start there. Let's just start there from
It's
that
look,
perspective of we're in a time of huge change.
what I actually said is it's a once in a species time, once in a species event. But on reflection, I would also listen to my elders and wisers, right? Who also reminded me that just because the craziness is happening this year doesn't mean the full effects are going to be this year. This is the seed time.
Mm.
So yes, it's going to be over the next few years. But yes, this is the year where it all
Will,
starts.
will we be aware of the seeds, or is this going to be something that we will only see in retrospect?
I think we're already aware of them. I don't think you need to be an astrologer. For that matter, I don't even think you need to be very intelligent to see how intense and crazy things are on the planet. But I think that we will see the seeds as they're unfolding. We are already in January seeing some of them that have unfolded just in these past couple of days around the full moon in Cancer back at the beginning of January. I mean, stuff that no one expected. This is the kind of ride that we're in for.
And bearing in mind, we're recording, this is going to be going out just before the new moon, which is also going to be an absolutely massive time for developments and events. You know, there's so much coming up.
As a Capricorn, Amanda, you know what that Capricornian energy is. And right now we have as high a density of Capricorn energy as we've had in a long time. In some ways, even January of 2020, which had a density of Capricorn energy. We know what January of 2020 was. And at that time we had, Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter. I mean, there was heavy energy. Now we have all the personal planets in Capricorn, either now or over, unfolding through the end of January. We have the sun, we have the new moon that Steve just referenced, we have Mercury, we have Venus and Mars. And it's like, this is like a, coming to reality and feeling the weight of what's really going on. And yet I think that the real transition here is that by the end of January, the moon, the sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. And when they do, each one of those planets is going to line up with Pluto. And that is not the singular power of the month, but that's a larger microcosm of what's unfolding over the months, year, and years ahead.
And when you think that the new moon is going to be at 28 degrees of Capricorn, which is so strong in the charts of people like Maxwell, Epstein, Prince Andrew, and the amount of stuff that's yet to come out, we've only seen the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot of distractions going on, trying to mask the real stuff that's coming up.
Mm.
And it takes a bit of objectivity to see what's going on in the world sometimes as distraction therapy. But this is distraction to avoid us seeing the real issues here. And that is the endemic perverse corruption that lies at the core the heart of most, if not all, of our so-called representative leaders. Power corrupts.
And are you getting that interpretation from the fact that there's all this energy in Capricorn that's then going to be shifting into Aquarius? Or what are you seeing in the astrology to give you that indication that there's the secrets and things that will be coming out?
Because, as Rick's already said, this is all coming up to conjunct Pluto. Now, this could be absolutely wonderful. It could be that there's no nastiness in the world, that there's no malfeasance, no one's got any secrets.
Wait, I want to do the drugs you're doing.
And that everything's going to be transformed. Everyone's going to get in touch with their own psychology, and the world's going to become a happy place overnight. Realistically, a lot of people are going to be angry with a lot of other people. And as a result of that, a lot of people are going to be hopefully willingly or otherwise forced into trusting their own instincts and their own psychology, because they realize that they can't really rely on the truth or veracity of anyone else around them, apart from maybe a few astrologers and of people of their ilk who are seeking to bring the world into the light.
So remember, I mean, we've kind of got off talking about this Pluto, the planets moving from Capricorn and then aligning with Pluto, focusing that deep hidden subterranean psychic energy that's coming out that often is represented by intense power struggles and emotional volatility. Fine. But all these planets, as they move through the end of Capricorn, are also going to be making aspects with the other planets involved here, because remember, Pluto is coming into a trine with Uranus. I should say Uranus is, as the faster moving planet, is coming into a trine with Pluto, which is really the major event. If there's a singular event over 2025, 26, 27, 28, it's the trine between Uranus and Pluto, which
sextile from Neptune to both of them as well.
And so the point is that as these planets are moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, they're all one at a time, including the next new moon, including the new moon coming up in Capricorn, are all trining Uranus. They're all trining Saturn, sextiling Saturn. They're all sextiling Neptune on their way to conjuncting Pluto. And so this whole thing becomes a microcosm of the Uranus-Pluto trine with Neptune and Saturn at the midpoint at 0 degrees of Aries, which, as we know, is now, a month away. That's going to be February 20th when that's exact. And so it's almost like an astrological perfect storm.
When I was doing my yearly forecasts for all the signs of the zodiac a few weeks ago, I was thinking, okay, it's all going to be based around the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. I thought, it turns out, no, it's not. It's very much like the period of late January is one of the 3 most important periods of the year in terms of astrological development and astrological intensity. And yeah, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction isn't one of the other 3. The other 2 are going to be the 7 planets in Aries, which I'll leave him to talk about because he'll know more about that than me. And then the big lineup.
No, I'm in Aries. I'm in Aries. I'm unconscious.
Unconscionable. Conscionable.
Well, they say that the Aries energy is the baby of the zodiac because, it has no self-awareness. It's like 2 planets conjoined cannot see each other because they're so close, they're as one. And so being the, resident representative of Aries energy, I'm probably not the one to talk about the pileup of planets around the Aries new moon or the, cluster of planets. And we have a really unique thing right now where the Sun, Venus, and Mars are all traveling at about the same speed. And so they kind of stay in relative close conjunction for weeks, even months, where they're still going to be in the same sign. And that is a bit unusual. This alignment of a triple conjunction between the sun, between Venus and Mars is incredibly rare. I mean, they often come clustering together, but for them to be partile at the same degree as they will be in Capricorn is highly unique.
How do you interpret that?
I would see it as a lot of people beginning to really talk honestly and openly about gender roles, gender equality, and some of the things that are going on that are the complete antithesis of that. That's been a big theme for me in the last few days, hearing about some of the things that are being done to women in the world. And this is coming into the consciousness more and more, and it can't happen fast enough. And perhaps having Venus and Mars in the same place with the sun in between them at this time is really raising this awareness amongst a large number of people. I hope so, because it's so fundamentally wrong.
You know, the other thing that's happening in the opening months of 2026 is we're getting the third and final squares. Well, actually, we're getting the third and final conjunction between Eris and Chiron, and Jupiter has retrograded back through that square. And when it turns direct, it will go back through that square for the third and final time. And the Jupiter squaring the Eris and Chiron is actually what's being activated by all these planets in Capricorn, because they're all opposing Jupiter, including the sun. And so there's this feeling of too much of anything and everything right now, even if it's something good. And Hippocrates was known to say that even a tonic in excess is toxic.
I mean, looking back, because by the time this goes out, we'll be looking back. But at the Cancer full moon in early January, that was happening at the time when the Earth was at its closest to the sun, and the moon was at its closest to the Earth.
That's a perihelion and a perigee.
And the last time that happened was 1912, which was the year of the Titanic. So it does seem, and Jupiter, of course, in loose aspect to both the sun and the moon, is amplifying things even bigger with all of that gravitational pull. So it does seem that where we are at the start of January, everything is completely out of balance. It's all over the top and larger than life. By the time this goes out, this would have passed, and there'll be further things going on, probably around countries in the Middle East, that would have taken a lot of the attention away from the Caribbean, for example.
You guys have been practicing astrology for a long time.
Thousands of years.
At least 100 years between us. Oh, well over 100 years.
No, that's true.
Yes, that's true.
A century between us.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And every year there's certain highlights or noteworthy astrological happenings, right? Is it true that this year, because you guys already just listed, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 very rare things happening just in January and February of this year. Is this the biggest confluence of rare astrological events that you've ever seen, including 2020?
Yes.
Yes.
That was pretty definitive.
Yes.
I mean, just alone taking the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, which Steve has already reduced to not the most important thing.
Unbelievable.
But even just taking that, with all of the astrology software that we have, it's easy to just dial back 2, 3, 4,000 years with a fair amount of accuracy to realize that this has never happened at 0 degrees of Aries before. And that for many people who may not realize that 0 degrees of Aries is such a significant point that there are branches of astrology, including what's called the Hamburg School that came out of early 20th century Germany, cosmobiology, Uranian astrology, symmetrical astrology. In all of these studies, branches of astrology, 0 degrees of Aries is actually mapped in the horoscope as a point, as if it was a planet. And when planets aspect that point, the question is, where is 0 degrees of Aries in your chart? As if it was like the north node of the moon. That's how important it is. And this conjunction, although it happens every 35, 36 years, has never happened at 0 degrees of Aries. And it's also happening this time at the exact, meaning partile, at the exact degree of the halfway point between the rare trine between Uranus and Pluto. So we have 3 of the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, that are forming 3 adjacent points on a 6-pointed star. And in July, Jupiter swings into that same pattern and makes the 4th point on a 6-pointed star. And yeah, this is so rare that I've scoured And as every other astrologer who's into this that I know of, no one can find anything similar to this. And if we look at astrology and say, every time this happens, this has happened, there's no way for us to do that. And then combine the technology of what's going on, we're in a totally new world. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I've gone back using astrological software, using AI, using NASA databases. There's never been a time like this. Last time anything this significant happened was about 14,000 years ago, astrologically speaking. And of course, we've no knowledge what was going on then. We're also actually, you were talking about late January. We're also missing that as we get towards the end of this month, we're seeing the third and final sextile between Saturn and Uranus.
Which is something that a lot of people have not been talking about. To me, I have a natal sextile between Saturn and Uranus, and it's that ability to have disruptive change without being disruptive. Now, I'm not saying that's the only thing that's going on, but there's that ability for Saturn to ground or stabilize the revolutionary radical change of Uranus. And again, if that was the only thing going on, I would say things are smooth. But there's so many other things going on. It's just another piece, but it is the third and final one that's exact.
I think
it's the end of January.
Yeah, I think Saturn's bringing a degree more structure into the anarchy and revolutionary attitudes of Uranus, whilst at the same time Uranus is helping Saturn revolutionize its limitations and change its boundaries from concrete and steel into transparent rubber and elastic. And we're all collectively learning how to bend our individual rules without breaking them.
And remember, the dance between Saturn and Uranus is really what Aquarius is all about. Modern astrologers say Aquarius is a Uranus, energy. Uranus is at home, but in Aquarius. But traditionally, Saturn was at home in Aquarius because when new planets were discovered, each one of them takes something away from the richer, older mythology. And Saturn, as Steve said, Saturn was the person who knew enough about the exactitude of the rules that it knew how and where and when to bend them to appear like they're breaking them. In modern world, Uranus is technology. In the ancient world, Saturn was technology. It was medicine. It was surgery. It was all of these things that we now put on Uranus. And when you have this balance between Saturn and Uranus together, it's like an optimum expression for anything in Aquarius. Think here, Pluto in Aquarius, as all these planets are not only conjoining it now, but it's also going to be trining Uranus exactly for the first time of 5 times starting in July of this year.
Because the astrology of this year is so big, we are doing everything we can here at Astrology Hub to bring you as many resources as possible to help you ride these huge waves of change. One of those things is our 10th annual year ahead forecast. It is coming up in just a few days. It is totally free. It is a 2-day panel event featuring 7 astrologers where we will be going through even more detail of the astrology of this year, the invitation of the transits, and the energetic signature of that astrology so that you are resourced and you can make the most of this time. To sign up, all you have to do is go to astrologyhub.com/2026 forecast. This will enable you to reserve your free seat. I cannot wait to share this time with you. It is going to be epic. Now back to the episode. Let's fast forward a little bit. So we've spent a lot of time talking about January, February. I know we barely even scratched the surface though about what's happening, especially February 17th to the 20th. But Steve, you mentioned there's basically 3 hot spots through the year. January, February, April, and then July, correct? Those are like the 3 biggest hotspots of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to break down the significance of the 17th through the 20th?
Okay. Yeah. It's basically the Saturn Neptune conjunction. It's a couple of days before a total eclipse, but that eclipse is only going to be visible from Antarctica and the deep south of South Africa, 30%. And the deep southwest of Australia, 25%. It's not a massive eclipse.
No, unless the reptiles that have created an entire empire under Antarctica come out and
That'd be a big deal.
I knew that would get Steve's attention.
So, Steve, would you rephrase what I said to the first hotspot being January 20th to February 20th, and then the second happening at what point of April? And then it sounds like July, just almost the entire month.
Well, second part of the month, really more, but
Yeah. To my mind, January is the last gasp attempt of the dinosaurs to maintain their control and domination that's been around for thousands of years. And that April is the actual break point where things collapse and are reborn. And that heads us into a brief, sharp period of relative chaos, out of which will come something hopefully really beautiful. And then in July, something much more egalitarian, Aquarian, and humanitarian has the potential to rise phoenix-like out of the ashes. And of course, it won't happen overnight. It will take years, but the seeds will be at that time. Once the corruption is fully exposed, it'll be impossible for anyone to take the majority of the leaders of the world seriously. The whole nature of political systems and religious systems will come under scrutiny in a way that's been bubbling under for decades.
And let's be very clear, this is not about, in the United States, about red versus blue. This is not about Democrat versus Republican. It's basically about individuality versus corporate suppression.
Yes.
It's about money and power and the, I want to say, the two-face, the lack of integrity at the top leadership tier of, I wouldn't say all, but maybe 94.813%. That's just a statistically derived number that's accurate. But a high level of duplicity and lack of integrity that basically says that anyone who promises a better life, better wages, cheaper medicine will get elected until they realize that they don't, and then someone else will get elected. And that's what's falling apart. It doesn't matter what your individual beliefs are, they're all coming down.
Okay, I have a question around this. Because from where we stand right now, it's hard to imagine something happening that would kind of put us all on the same page about what reality actually is. Because at this point, I feel there's so much distrust, even of what we see online, social media, in the news. It all can be fabricated. It all can be spun. It all can be twisted. And we all know that. So for something to happen that would make it so obvious to all of us is really hard to imagine.
The speed at which the events are going to happen that will have immediate impact. You know, the economic, the political, the daily life, hour by hour, the relationship that we each have with the larger world, with social media, with government assistance. There's so many things that are at the edge of untying and untying fast.
The pomp, the righteous, pompous arrogance of people who have used shame, fear, and guilt to manipulate populations, that's all about to come back and bite them. And when these same people are seen to have been behaving in such corrupt, amoral, unhuman ways, the swell of public opprobrium should be enough to change things forever. That's my hope. We shall see. And of course, I might be a barking lunatic. I was talking with Rick earlier and saying, you know, some of the things we're saying now, becoming more and more out there, are actually potentially causing us to become not quite targets, but putting us at risk of being, you know, looked at and getting into trouble. But then, for that to happen, the powers that be would have to acknowledge that astrology is a real thing.
I know for myself, when I'm hearing things like this, it has an echo of the kinds of things you guys were saying in 2019 and right when we were on the brink of 2020. And so there is an element of maybe a little PTSD from what actually went down in those years to come. For anyone out there who's kind of bracing right now or like holding their breath, and Steve, one thing you say all the time is flow with the go. How do we do that in a sea of change that's far beyond what we've ever seen?
Don't judge.
Don't judge. Don't judge ourselves. Don't judge each other. What do you mean?
Don't become like those we criticize. Don't become like those we dislike. In 2019, we were all looking at Jupiter conjunct Saturn conjunct Pluto. And of course, we all know what happened. And of course, the same thing could happen again. It could. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So perhaps one word of advice would be to say to everyone, eat well, sleep well, look after your bodies. Don't eat the ultra-processed foods.
And I would add to that, because of Pluto in Aquarius and the shift to air, I would say it's not only build your own immune systems and your own physical integrity, but also build your community. This is not the time of the lone wolf. That was Capricorn energy. That was the master of the world. Being a master of something will allow me to survive in the outer world and to climb the mountain. Now no one's going to get to climb the mountain by themselves. Everything is happening in community, Aquarius being the sign of the collective. And we're seeing this in the importance of social media, of AI, whether you think it's the worst thing that ever happened because of its drain on water and electricity, and those are incredibly real issues, or whether you think it's some form of new alchemical intelligence that's going to allow humanity to reach the next level. Regardless of what your individual thoughts are on this, there's a saying in early computer technology going back into the 80s that the power of the network is based on the number of nodes, the number of computers on the network. And right now we have a computer network that has probably in the range of 3 to 5 billion people on a network. Now, the scary thing is that powers that be, if they can turn the power off in an instant in a city of millions of people like Caracas, which they did at the full moon in January, the U.S. government turned the power off in the capital of Venezuela. It's possible that the entire internet is turned off. Then what? So it's build community, and that community, coming back to what I get tired of saying, well, I don't, but I think people get tired of hearing it, think cosmically, act locally. The act locally piece is build local community, because that's what's going to enable us to survive.
And if I may, with regard to what Rick's just said, we were having a conversation before this, and Rick raised a really good point. He said, before the discovery of Uranus, did we behave in Uranian ways just because we did, or was it only the discovery of Uranus that gave us the okay to work with Uranian ways? Extrapolate that forward to the current day. Is AI something we've invented, or is it something that's actually always been there and we've just woken up to it?
It's what Pierre Teilhard de Chardin called the noosphere. The idea that there is a something enveloping the entire planet that's made up of thought forms, and we've now just created technology, even if it's not environmentally sustainable, that gives us a technical ability to tune into that thought form, just like a telescope enabled us to tune into the visibility of Uranus that was already there.
And that is the core of the consciousness revolution, what I call the mycelium of consciousness, which makes me think that in the eventuality that there is no technological community able to sustain itself for whatever nefarious reason, that humans will have the ability to trust their own instincts, their own gut wisdom, and still be able to maintain communities just through conscious knowing. I have faith in humanity. I really do.
It's just the humans that scare us.
Yeah.
Hey friends, I just wanted to thank all of you who have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription, your comments, your shares, this is what enables this channel to continue growing and to continue to be able to attract great voices, master astrologers, leading visionaries like Rick Levine and Steve Judd. So thank you so much if you've already taken that action. If you haven't yet, now would be a great time to subscribe to the channel. This is the way that we get these voices out further into the world, get the guidance of astrology into more people's homes and hearts. So thank you so much for taking a moment to do that right now. We appreciate you so much. Okay, you guys, this is so good. I asked our Inner Circle members if they had any questions for you. And so I'd love to go through a few of those now. There's questions around Ceres, its evolving role potentially in the importance in our natal chart, but also in the importance of its role in 2020 and its role in 2026. Where do you see Ceres entering into the conversation? And do you think it's significant?
Ceres is the only object in the asteroid belt that is big enough to be round. So to me, Ceres is a planetoid, not an asteroid. Ceres has Demeter, Ceres in the Roman, deals with nurturing. Now, I can't explain why, but just through my own observations over 40 years, things like I use Chiron all the time in charts. I couldn't do a horoscope without using Chiron, but Chiron by transit, in my opinion, doesn't work except for the Chiron return. I've yet to see any demonstrable evidence that Ceres by transit works, but Ceres has a point in the horoscope, in a delineation on our personal reading is pivotal. The idea about mummy, nurturing, sustainability is vital. So I think Ceres is an incredibly potent thing. And there is this thing about once you discover an object and it's named, then the archetypes emerge into the consciousness. Now, as to why that should happen, we could spend hours talking about that one. So yeah, I rate Ceres. But unlike Rick, I don't rate things that aren't round, like Eris or Sedna. But he's going to jump on me on that one.
I think there's so many things out there that everybody has to draw their own boundary. I mean, you can do a decent reading without using Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto. You're going to miss a whole lot. But by adding additional points, and I don't care what those points are, whether they're round or not, the more information you have gives you more data points. But I don't disagree with what Steve said about the roundness of an object, although I'm not personally convinced, having watched some of these other objects, that whether they're other chironic objects, like Chariklo, or whether they're other, Oort belt objects, like Varuna and Salacious. And so I've seen enough work, some of the breakthrough work that Alan Clay is doing at Dwarf Planet University, I think is absolutely fascinating. I'm doing what I can to learn how to incorporate some of these other energies into my awareness, but we all have to make some arbitrary point, and it's always arbitrary based upon some judgment that we make that I believe this, and that, but I can't go any further. And whatever those things are that work for you, bless you, do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of Rob Hand, who many people call the academic dean of astrology on the planet, arguably one of the bright lights of astrology. And, when Rob talked about asteroids, his point was, I don't use any of them. They're all space gravel. But if one believes, as I do, like Indra's net, which is a concept from ancient Hinduism, the Vedas teach that Indra's net is an infinite net of pearls. And every pearl, when you look into it, has the reflection of every other pearl in the net. And so I believe, this is a belief of mine, that everything is connected to everything. It's a fundamental understanding of quantum physics. And if everything is connected to everything, then where you look for truth, you'll find it. It may not be truth with a capital T, but it'll be truth that'll support what your beliefs are, because ultimately the universe is plastic. And I don't mean artificial, I mean malleable, that the universe will reflect back to us like an echo chamber. It'll reflect back to us what we believe. And so I think the more data we have, the better. But I certainly support Steve's view that if you're going to only use one additional object to the classical planets, Ceres would be the place to start.
Question about Mars and Venus cazimi throughout the year. Have you guys looked at this? And if you have, what do you what are you interpreting from it?
Well, that's part of what we're talking about the upcoming sun, the sun conjunct Venus and Mars at the same time.
How often do you get Venus and Mars conjunct in Capricorn, followed by Venus and Mars conjunct in Aquarius, and then Venus and Mars together in Pisces, followed by Venus and Mars conjunct in Aries? How often does that happen? Never. But then we're in that phase where we're getting all of the new moons at 28 degrees, all of the full moons at 13 degrees. When does this happen? Never. There's so many anomalies happening for an astronomical, solar system astronomical level at the moment, that it must be the response to some type of attractor or dwell point in the future that's pulling us forward and making us sit up and take notice and go, what is going on here? There's got to be some type of signal or some type of event horizon that's about to unfold as a result of these anomalies. But I don't attribute individual meaning to it. I just think that it's overall a time of gender rebalancing.
Which reminds me of a slide that I think I've used on a few of my presentations, maybe even on Astrology Hub, of an elderly woman carrying a sign at a massive demonstration, and the poster on her sign said, "My favorite season is the fall of patriarchy."
When you guys look ahead beyond 2026, can you see, do you have any sense of where we're going?
2026 is the time. 2027 and 28 will see the results. And by the end of 28, the pathways for the future are fairly much determined.
No going back.
No going back. Absolutely. But the way we're going forward from, say, mid-late 28 onwards, we're either heading into dystopia or utopia. Breakdown, breakthrough. We're either going to end in a situation where the tech bros and the three large world powers carve everything up between them and the rest of us just cannon fodder, or we break into a world where the level of community interaction, not just at a technological, but at a spiritual and consciousness level, is far beyond what we're currently doing. And that's going to herald a breakthrough in a way that our ancestors have been dreaming of for tens of thousands of years. We owe it to our ancestors to do this.
And when Steve says we owe it to our ancestors to do this, that then basically supports my perspective on this, and that is, do we know what's around the bend? No, we know where we're coming from. We know where the bend is, but between now and the time we're around the bend, the actions that we take individually, socially, collectively, corporately, judiciously, economically, the decisions that we take and make along that way, what we do, what we don't do, that will determine what that future will be. We've never been at an inflection point that is so malleable and so undetermined as to what's around the bend, which is one of the things that's freaking so many people out. It doesn't matter what you believe and what you think is true, you know that you don't know. And everyone who thinks they know, you've heard me say this before, Amanda, when, there's a lot of wise people out there, but if you find someone who knows what they're talking about, who has all the answers, get the hell out of there, because they don't.
Yeah, we don't. It's both terrifying and
exciting,
exhilarating. It's great. I wouldn't dream of putting the brakes on.
Is there any, in your mind, any way in which both of those things could theoretically be true? That there is both utopia and dystopia happening simultaneously, but people are having their own experience of reality based on their level of consciousness or how they've chosen to live. Is that a possibility? Or do you see that we're kind of, we're either all going this way or we're all going that way?
In order for a breakthrough to occur, some of the old patterning is going to have to be discarded. And that means that a lot of people are going to have to make some sacrifices.
And remember, one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, Richard Buckminster Fuller, Bucky Fuller, the last book he wrote was a book, he's the guy who wrote Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth, and was really the first generalist, who really wrote about recycling in the 1930s. But Buckminster Fuller's last book before he died was a book called Utopia or Oblivion. Without even talking about the contents of the book, it's what Steve said. And actually, yes, on some levels, it will be both.
It sounds to me like the choices we're making as individuals right now are of paramount importance. because we're
Paramount.
at this inflection point. And so we can't control what's going to happen in the world. We never can.
The great prophecy said that the rivers would run quickly in the future. And the current prophecy says, this is that time. Don't try to hold on to the bank, because if you do, the power of the river will tear you in half. Push away from the bank of the river and go out into the center. And as Steve would say, flow with the go with the flow, however you want to say it. But it's basically push into the rapid current. And then the Hopi prophecy goes on and says, keep your head above water. Look around. See who's there. This is your new family. Know where your water is coming from. Know where your food sources are. Be joyous. That's it.
Fine. Eat, drink, and be merry.
But there really is, those people who will suffer the most will be those people who are either holding on to the past, or those people who, in a Freudian manner, Freud called it infantile regression, where under pressure we go back to the past. Those people who are either holding on to the past or trying to make something great again, because as Freud pointed out, we look back at our childhood when we're under pressure and we think, everything was taken care of then, even if our parents were beating us up. It doesn't matter. We glorify the past and we try to make it like the present again. And those are the people who are going to suffer the most, are the people who are holding on to or trying to recreate the past, push into the center and move into the future and make the best of it that you can along the way. And part of that is creating community in the moment.
And that's why the survivalist movements are barking up the wrong tree completely. Because at the end of the day, all they're doing is perpetuating the old systems in an ever narrowing way. And eventually they will die out because no one will be there to supply them with food. The numbers will dwindle. And it's the people who are not looking so much at survivalist techniques, but willing to embrace the future, however it may be, who will be flexible and adaptable enough to actually move into the new futures.
One of the things that people point to is that Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, and most particularly in his book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, of something that he termed the overman or the superman. And of course, this was misinterpreted and used by Hitler and Nazi Germany as, the importance of the Aryan, race and the
Übermensch.
The Übermensch. And yet what Nietzsche was really writing about was the illusion that humanity as it exists now is the final point of evolution. And that we are at a point where Homo sapiens are actually evolving into something else very quickly. And there are those who can and will fight it. And those people may end up being the Cro-Magnons or the whatever races that actually fall to the side as evolution moves on. Now, some of this is very frightening, but the fact is that if you somehow transported someone from the 1730s, 40s, 50s, before the French Revolution, before the American Revolution, and put them into today's environment, they would say there's nothing human about this. I mean, just the fact that we create our own cycles, we have electric lights, we can communicate with anyone on the planet instantaneously, as we are doing right now. Steve and I are in the south of England, and you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean somewhere. Does anyone know where Hawaii is? No, an airplane lands us there, But the point is that we have already evolved past what humans once were. And we ain't seen nothing yet. And that's part of what's going to be unfolding in the years ahead. And it's a combination of AI, AR, which is augmented reality. That's the computer interfacing with humanity, or organic beings, whether you like it or not. ET, no matter whether you think they come from other planets or from other dimensions or from within the Earth, there's a whole thing unfolding there. Also, that's totally out of individual control, and especially with the amount of awareness that's been pointed at this, even if Atlas, AI Atlas turns out to be just a rock. It doesn't matter. It's altered our consciousness because of so many people focusing on, on this as an interstellar event. The point is that our understanding of space and time is undergoing a huge and dramatic shift, and nothing's going to stop that from occurring because it's already in process.
Nothing. And I can picture the dinosaurs in their escape rooms with solid steel doors, surrounded by boxes of $1,000 bills and guns, and no one to love. I know where I'd want to be.
Mm.
It's time. We've been waiting, not just all our lives. We've been waiting as a species for this time. This is it.
Whenever my mind goes into trying to project into the future of what this might look like, and this is going back to what you were saying about the survivalists and taking where we're at right now and trying to create, anticipating solutions that will help insulate ourselves from this rapid change, right? I keep remembering that there are solutions to our problems that we cannot even see right now from our vantage point because of all those things you just said, Rick, all of the changes that are going to be happening that we can't even fathom right now. And I know that even with recent technological changes, there are already solutions emerging to seemingly impossible situations that we couldn't have imagined before. So
But of course, a lot of them are being suppressed by the dinosaurs.
Yes.
Because the dinosaurs right now are at the top of their game, they think, because of the power and immense wealth. Remember, the word Pluto comes from that which is beneath the ground. Pluto is not just about the hidden things. It's also about immense, unimaginable wealth, because money is not wealth. Wealth is owning the gold mines, the silver mines, the copper mines, the diamond mines, the oil, that which is held within the ground. And we don't live in an oligarchy that's run by a bunch of wealthy people. We live in a plutocracy that is being controlled by a hidden wealth even behind that, however you want to label it or describe it. And that's what's coming out during this period of time, I believe. And it'll either come out in a major way or it'll be suppressed for another round of a long period of time.
Long period of time.
You guys, thank you so much for this. Thank you for choosing to come here and hang out with us. I'm so grateful. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out?
Shifts happen too.
Shifts happen too.
Yes.
We announced it a couple of days ago. It's happening. We've already sold 15% of the tickets in the first 2 days.
Amazing. Okay, for people who don't know what that is, tell them.
Shifts Happen Too is an astrological symposium that happens in the northwest of London, and it's going to be happening in the middle of May around the Taurus new moon, and it's going to have 5 primary speakers. That is myself, Rick, Penny Thornton, Alex Trenoweth, and Darby Costello, who's an amazing human being. And yes, we're also going to be doing an organized day trip just up the road to Avebury Stone Circle, the biggest stone circle in the world. It's going to be an adventure. And all you have to do to find out about it is just Google Shifts Happen Too, T-O-O, not numeral 2, T-O-O. And we want you to come, Amanda.
Ooh, I would love to come. It'd be amazing. And actually, Penny Thornton and Alex Trenoweth are both going to be inner circle astrologers with us this year. So our little communities are meshing and melding in beautiful ways. And it's going to be an incredible event. You guys go check it out for sure. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. So you can
And
go.
as long as we're putting links, I would also like to mention that I'm doing a 6-day journey into learning how to read charts, but using your own chart as the process. This is going to be in Southern California, just north of Santa Barbara. And then also I'm going to be doing a 10-day cruise through the Greek islands with a bunch of other crazy people talking about alternative history and revisionists' views of what humanity is. I'll be doing 3 astrology lectures on this program. It's called Mystery School at Sea. And that's going to keep me busy up until the time I connect back up with this guy for Shifts Happen 2. Shifts Happen 1 was an amazing few days.
An amazing event.
And so people who have attended that are already very excited about the next round. So that's what's coming up.
And I've got two things. I'm doing the Amadown conference, Decoding the Divine 2 with Penny Thornton over the Easter weekend. It's in the Mendip Hills, just south of Bristol in England. And also I'm doing on my own a week-long retreat at a yoga center in the south of Spain in the first week of September. And there's only about 15 spots on there, and that's selling out fast as well. So yeah, we're both doing our best to get astrology out onto the streets, not in the hallowed halls or the academic centers. We're getting out into the streets where it belongs.
And I love that you're bringing people together, because we talked about the importance of community, and you're bringing like-minded souls together to have these incredible experiences with you. And I think it's incredibly important. And I know how much work goes into creating these events for people. And just thank you for doing it. I know you guys love it. And it's just, it's also a nice service.
We can look at you and say the same thing, because you've certainly done a tremendous job of creating an immense community that goes around the globe. And so thank you for that.
Indeed.
All right, you guys, this has been such a pleasure. It's a Sunday morning for me, a Sunday evening for you guys. I know you're just going to continue to have so much fun together. Thank you for stopping in here with us, and it'll be so amazing. We're going to be having Rick on every month this year to do a month ahead. So
until
we're gonna
people are totally bored with me.
Totally, which is never going to happen. Steve, I would love to touch in with you as much as possible throughout the year as this astrology unfolds. We at Astrology Hub want to be here, are going to be here for this community, to make sure that you feel held, to make sure you feel guided, to help you anchor in with the astrology so that you have that vantage point that is so empowering and really helps you not get swept up in the world events. You get to sit at that eagle's eye perspective. So we're going to be offering more and more things to keep you supported through these huge times. So thank you everybody for being here with us. We will catch you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye, world.
You guys are the best.